Rarely has mankind hesitated to eradicate the creatures that stand in the path of his conquest. If we find intelligent species, ritual extraterrestrials, undesirable invaders from another world, they must be destroyed if possible in our dark past. Watch out and pray.
Hello, greetings, and welcome back to Close Encounters of the Podcast Kind post-Christmas.
Post-Christmas, but by the time you guys hear this, it's going to probably be, I don't know, January.
Yeah. Oh, it might actually be a couple Christmases later because we only have 3 fans now, actually.
Yeah.
One is your dog. The other is your mom.
And now, my aunt. My aunt's on board. So, thanks, guys.
I tried to get my mom to listen to this, and you know what? She said no. She said she wasn't interested.
She just didn't want to hear it, huh?
Yeah, no, not at all. And it's, I don't know. I guess your family's just a little bit more receptive to our ideas.
That's okay. I forced them to.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, you're using this thing called violent persuasion.
Yeah, blackmail.
Oh, even better. But we hope you all survived the holidays. I mean, obviously, we're recording afterwards, so we did. But we're going to actually delve today into something quite contrary to the holiday spirit. I wouldn't say so far as the opposite, but definitely a change of gears here.
Yeah, it's going to get a little spooky today.
Oh, we're talking about
the Rougarou.
Ooh, I actually just learned about what this was this morning when I kind of woke up in a panic, realizing that we were recording today, and then I didn't do any research.
He takes his job very seriously.
This is very true. I want nothing but the best for our 3 listeners.
Yeah.
But that being said, the Rougarou is, I don't know, because I didn't research it.
That's okay. I'm gonna do this. All right. That's what I'm here for.
This is true.
Like I said in the first episode, I'm gonna be the guide.
Your resident tinfoil hat. Courier, is that the right word?
I'll be a courier of information for you.
Yeah. Let's see it. Let's take me on an adventure.
All right, so the Rougarou is a legendary half-man, half-wolf creature that stalks unsuspecting victims in the bayous of Louisiana and has its origins in medieval France. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start in France in the 16th century, and we're going to show how this legend went from there all the way to the bayous in Louisiana, because that's quite the trek. But it makes a lot of sense when you think about it historically.
Yeah, and it's interesting to point out, too, that this is, in essence, the French werewolf. And this is something I think is a very important to note, is how every kind of culture has their own different way of telling, like, the same story. Like, there's American Werewolf in London, you know?
Yeah, we'll bring Hollywood movies into this as reference quite often.
But yeah, this is sort of, it's like a take on what, that's what I found really interesting is, like, as we kind of like talked about this a little bit beforehand, is like there is a lot of similarities, just like how we could even do an episode on like the chupacabra or the kukui later. But there's a lot of similarities I found with this, but this one's like, it's more of the French version. So anyways, we're continuing on in our journey into the past.
All right, so everybody, I want you to grab your deodorant. I want you to come with us into the time machine, and we're going to invade medieval France together, because it's going to be stinky. This is going to be a stinky, stinky story, all right, guys?
If you've been to Comic-Con or E3, you're probably already ready for this.
Exactly. All right, here we go.
I hear it got better. But anyways, yeah.
Did it?
I have heard. I can't afford to go to those things, but, well, I want to believe.
All right, so our story starts in 16th century medieval France, where they had a term that literally meant werewolf, and it was loup-garou.
Which,
all right.
I should point out that loop, it looks like loop. Like, give me the loops, brother. Like the meme.
It's Loupgarou. Loup-garou.
Loup-garou.
Right. The loup-garou was an ever-present fear among civilians in France, just like in other parts of Europe at the time. This was happening at the same time as the witch trials. People were very afraid of things that they wanted to use as scapegoats, and that's exactly what they would do with the loup-garou. They were scapegoats for bad things that would happen, and especially crimes.
Oh, so
a lot like the witch trials.
So they got crucibled.
Exactly. The werewolves also got crucibled. It wasn't just witches. Yeah.
Right.
I for one am for werewolf rights.
This is true. I mean, they don't know what they're doing. Like witches, that's a very conscious effort into causing chaos and discord. Wolves they just want to be pets. Get a little raw meat every now and again, and sometimes it just tastes better when it's screaming.
Yeah. I mean, that's the fear is what makes it taste good, I hear.
Yeah, exactly. Supposedly.
Yeah, okay, don't quote us on that. Don't isolate that, all right?
I can't wait to when this podcast gets used as evidence against us in the court of law.
Damn it. Now, a lot like the witch trials that we were just talking about, people were often accused and tried for being loups-garous, werewolves. The court would then usually ask the entire public, do you think that these people are werewolves? And what do you think they said, Tasker? I want you to tell me. Do you think they stood up for their fellow man and told them no?
We all want to believe that when push came to shove, we would stand up for what was right. But in a second, everyone said, let's hang them by the gallows. Let's murder them in front of a whole crowd.
Exactly, because people back then loved seeing other people get tortured and executed. And they were also, fairly enough, afraid of being outed as a loup-garou themselves because they stood up for that person. Because as soon as you say that person, let me do my French accent. I was about to go into a Texas one for some reason. That's my neighbor, Bill? No, he's not a loup-garou. There's no way. I grew up with him. And then everybody in the crowd pauses and just looks over and is like, it's a werewolf!
He could be a loup-garou.
So that's why people wouldn't do it. They didn't stand up for their fellow man. So oftentimes these innocent people were tried and executed for being loup-garou.
I just a thought came to me. There's a big discussion. It kind of died down lately about violence in video games and causing people. Our ancestors literally made an occasion of watching their fellow man be, as you said, tortured and murdered in front of everyone. And on top of this loup-garou thing, it just became an excuse to kill people you didn't like. It's just like the purge, but like one person at a time.
Yep, that's exactly what it all came down to. And as this public fear of werewolves in France was growing, the French Catholic Church got their stinky claws all over this, dude. They couldn't leave it alone. So there's a legend from medieval France that says, if you don't follow Lent for 7 consecutive years, you will become a loup-garou. You will become a werewolf. Ooh. You will be cursed to walk the land as a half man, half wolf, just because you didn't follow Lent for 7 years.
Was there a big Catholic presence in France at that time?
I didn't do research on that.
I knew that question was going to be a bit of a zinger, but that's just something that just kind of came to mind.
But realistically, there probably was.
They kind of, it was 16th century. They had a hold on like the whole world.
On the entirety of Europe, for the most part, most of Western Europe. So
that makes sense.
I'd assume that they had a large presence.
Yeah, I'm not questioning your data. It was just something I was like, oh, fuck.
No, it's okay. I didn't know that either. Another legend from medieval France states that if children didn't obey their parents, the loup-garou would snatch them up out of their beds in the middle of the night and take them away and probably diddle them. Maybe eat them.
What monster? I mean, it depends on your definition of eating. But
oh god!
Like I said, here's another thing. Another consistency is we're seeing overlap, like the story of La Llorona, which is the Hispanic weeping woman. Who I think there's also a Japanese and this is where I think I can bring something to the podcast. Is I get my rocks off on all this sort of like mythology and stuff, and there's creatures still. I mean. Because the consistency is culturally all across the board, we want to give stories that scare the shit out of our children so they'll listen to us.
Yep.
Because hard logic doesn't really work with kids or even most adults. But at least with kids, you could just say, hey, do this, do your dishes, or the loup-garou is going to come and
he's going to diddle you.
Yeah, he's going to fist you in the butthole.
The loup-garou was seated deep into medieval French culture. So naturally, when the French colonists came to America, the legend came with them. And that is how it ends up in modern-day Louisiana. So a little bit of a backstory on one of the reasons why French colonists went to Louisiana in the first place.
Right.
French explorers began colonizing and controlling large areas of North America from present-day northeast Canada all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. Right. So it wasn't just in modern-day America. It was also in parts of Canada as well. Seeing potential in Louisiana, specifically New Orleans, New Orleans, as a successful port city. This was a major hub for French colonists, and that's why New Orleans has such a French influence. If you've ever been there, there's architecture, music, all kinds of things there are still very heavily influenced by like French culture, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's stinky, but it's cool.
Well, yeah, if you've even been to Disneyland and you go to the French Quarter, I mean, it's literally called the French Quarter. And good point, too, about if you go up into Canada, a lot of it is like Quebec or Alberta. It's very French. There's a lot of, French is actually the national language there.
Exactly. So that's like a little bit of a subplot to our podcast today. You may have walked away learning something new about history there. So that was probably the only real piece of information you're going to get today.
Yeah, don't get used to it either.
Yeah, that's not going to happen again. So let's get started on the modern day Louisiana legends of the Rougarou. All right. And so first I want to talk about something. Why have I been saying Rougarou in an episode that we've entitled The Rougarou? As generations of these French settlements went on, the English was growing in America throughout the country as the predominant language. These settlers had to learn English for trading and economic purposes. Being in Louisiana, it was a big trading post. But their English dialect was heavily influenced by other cultures living in the area, and that's namely Native Americans, African and Caribbean slaves, and other European immigrants or colonists. And so I want to go give you a quick rundown on how these dialects and accents became what we know as the modern day Creole Louisiana accent, all right?
This is filling me with all kinds of anxiety.
Native Americans, right? This is what they sound like.
Oh, no.
My people need to trade my furs. We're going to come to Louisiana and sell them to the French. I'm probably going to skip the African slaves one.
It might be for the better.
Other European immigrants, though, I can do that.
So how would they say the word Lougarou?
Lougarou? How would who say what?
Oh, like like in these accents, like how do you think they would butcher it to the point where it becomes Rougarou?
So it wasn't these different cultures influencing the word itself. It was them influencing the French settlers' understanding of English.
Oh, okay. Oh, actually, I was totally confused on that. No, that's great. Okay,
yeah,
so I see.
So all these people were developing and trading around them, and so as the French settlers were learning English, these people were influencing how their English dialect came about.
Oh,
and that's why Creole is unintelligible.
It's if you talk to somebody who is like deep in that, it is very hard to understand.
Yes, if somebody in the bayous, very, very difficult to understand, because again, I watched YouTube videos on this topic. Half of them needed subtitles. Definitely somebody got fired because they did not put subtitles.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's like, we got through it.
Yeah, and it's not the first English language that like Irish sometimes, if you meet somebody with a really deep Irish or Scottish accent, if you're not used to it, I literally have a friend whose dad is like, especially after he drinks, it's like you need a translator because it's different, you know?
It's absolutely different. We're not bashing other cultures, but work on your English.
Yes. We're acknowledging you and appreciating you for who you are, but we're also being very critical and saying that you need to get good.
All right, so here are some... so essentially what happens is, over time, Lougarou in French becomes Rougarou in Louisiana, in the bayous. There are some people who still call it the Lougarou, but they don't say it as fancy as I've been saying it. They just say Lougarou. Oh boy, obviously we're on the bayou now, boy. That's how they say it. But a majority of the people in Louisiana say Rougarou. Okay, so that's why this is titled Rougarou.
I see. Is there any other accents you want to get out of your system before we move on?
I think I've offended enough people. I'm good right now.
All right, I'm glad you're satisfied. I'm glad. That's why we're here.
There will be more later.
Oh, boy.
So let's get into some modern day legends about the Rougarou. Unsurprisingly, a lot of these legends have withstood the stand of time, the test of time, if you will, and I will, and have come from France all the way to Louisiana. One of them being that the fact that Catholics still have their grubby hands on werewolves.
Oh, no.
Catholics in Louisiana will still say, if you don't follow the rules of Lent, a Rougarou will come out of the swamps and kill you. So they're still telling people this.
Still?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a deep-seated legend that it makes sense that it's there. But at the same time, you know, the Catholic Church, they can't let anything fucking go.
I was raised Catholic. I never heard about the Rougarou.
Yeah, but you don't live in Louisiana.
That's right.
Thank God you don't live in Louisiana.
Yeah, there's definitely a stark difference between Catholicism in California than it is in Louisiana.
Another legend, a more modern day legend that is actually sprouted in Louisiana, we have some originality finally, is there are two main ways to get the curse of the Rougarou. One of them being through a witch or voodoo priest who you piss off for some reason, right? So let's say you're walking down the street, you see some crazy old bitch with like feathers like coming out of her ears and that's in like a mask.
I think I saw a couple of those back when I was in high school.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know what a voodoo priestess looks like. That's what I imagine they look like. And let's say you're walking past her and you tell her to get out of the way because she's the type of person to stand in the middle of the street, right?
Right.
And then she gives you some kind of curse. You're going to become a Rougarou. So you got to really be careful who you piss off in Louisiana.
And for all we know, too, you might see these people wearing these Naruto headbands. They could be secretly dabbling in the magical arts and could turn you into a Rougarou, too.
I swear to God, Tasker, if you bring up anime one more time, I'm quitting.
It's relevant to the culture. Somehow.
The other way to obtain the curse of the Rougarou is if you are attacked by a Rougarou, but conversely, if you attack a Rougarou.
See, this is what's interesting to me is there's so many rules with this creature.
There's rules with a lot of creatures, but that's where folklore comes from, you know? That's just kind of what it does. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're sleeping in your cottage.
Right.
Right? They have cottages in Louisiana, right? I don't know. I've never been there.
I think.
Let's say you're sleeping peacefully in your town. All of a sudden, Rougarou comes running in. You see this big-ass werewolf comes running into your town, starts tearing up shit, you know, diddling kids and, like, eating people, whatever Rougarous do.
Right.
You get out, and you're like, I'm going to be a hero. You get your shotgun, you load it up, you come outside, you shoot the thing, and it hits the ground. Boom. Turns back into a man. Do you know what you just did? You fucked up. Because you are now a Rougarou. If you draw blood from a Rougarou, the curse is passed on to you. Doesn't matter if he's dead or not. So you could scratch him. He's relieved of the curse and gets to go on living with just a scratch. But you done goofed. You got the curse of the Rougarou, man.
Oh, man. So if you just make a mistake, you're like, oh, that's a wolf or a bear or something that's attacking the blood, and you kill it, and it happens to be a Rougarou, you just basically might as well have just shot yourself in the brain.
Yep.
Oof.
You're now a Rougarou. So the lesson is, don't be a hero. All right? If you see a werewolf, run.
I think they actually taught me that in first aid training. Is step one, don't be a hero.
Never be a hero. They're not going to pay you.
Nope.
And you're just going to end up with a curse.
True.
Tasker, there is hope for you.
Oh?
If you do fuck up and get the curse of the Rougarou by trying to be a hero, like I know you would.
Probably, yeah. That actually this would happen to me.
You can cure yourself and the Rougarou that infected you by not talking about it for a year and a day.
So just not talking about your course? I'm sorry, I went full goofy on you.
Okay, course, huh?
Course. But no, so is it talking about I can't talk about my curse, or I just can't talk about the Rougarou in general, or is it both?
I would just drop it. I would drop the whole damn subject. I don't know which one it is specifically, but I would definitely not talk about the fact that you have a curse.
Got it.
Because you're going to alienate a lot of people.
Yeah,
people aren't going to want to be around you if you start talking about it.
I don't know if any of y'all have been to a party and you're having trouble connecting to people, and then you kind of start getting a little too personal, just in this really desperate bid to have any sort of human connection. And I find myself at this party, I'm like, hey, I have a curse, and they're like, oh, really? But now I've just continued my descent into Rougarouism, huh?
Exactly. You've just messed it up for yourself. You didn't make it a day or a year and a day. So you are cursed to walk the land as a Rougarou.
Does it reset every time you talk about it, or is like that an eternal thing?
I'm pretty sure it resets. So
okay.
I think that, like, let's say you're a year, you're 365 days of not talking about being a werewolf, which for me is very difficult. I tell people I'm a werewolf at least 2 times a month. All right, let's say you're on a year. The end of the night comes, you get drunk, you talk to somebody about it. You had 1 day, but now it's a year and a day.
Oh, that would make an amazing film. It's like the final day, and then it's like, I'm celebrating tonight because I'm no longer a Rougarou. And then just the face of horror.
And then Finn, it's over. That'd be a good movie.
I'm in.
Now, Tasker.
Yes.
Ask me, how do I protect myself from a Rougarou? Because I know that you're thinking it.
Yeah, this is very important. We've only been discussing if it happens to you, but what happens if you have acknowledged the fact that a Rougarou attack is coming your way?
All right, here's what you do. If you want to protect you and your loved ones from a Rougarou, if you ever, for some godforsaken reason, move to Louisiana
and can't identify one of these creatures,
all you need to do is put 13 small objects around the floor at the base of the doors and windows that your home has. You might be asking why. It's because Rougarous are kind of retarded. And they can't count past 12. So if you put 13 small, and for some reason their OCD kicks in when they see these objects, and they're like, I gotta count them. I gotta do this. But the problem is, they can't count past 12.
So we're dealing with something that's like the intelligence of, when you have a dog and you put the blanket up over yourself and you drop the blanket but move, and the dog's like, oh, where the fuck did they go?
The exact same intelligence level.
Okay.
And here is my Broadway rendition of how I believe this goes down.
Oh, no.
All right, I've got to get these guys inside the house. What's this on the floor? My insatiable OCD. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think I may have forgotten what comes past this one.
Oh,
do you guys remember how I get past this number? Do you guys know what comes after 12? Because I don't remember how I'm doing.
He's like knocking on the door.
Excuse me, and can you guys tell me what comes after the number 12?
Oh.
All right, I'll just count it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, guys, this is getting pretty annoying. Maybe you could just give me a hint. Can you guys just tell me which one it is? And the problem is, for these idiots, they have to keep counting it over and over and over again because they have this weird OCD. They keep counting because they can't count past 12. The sun comes up, they gotta bail back to the bayou. You're safe.
So is it like something about the number 13, or is it the process of counting that just frustrates them, or?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I think the number 13 is very important for a lot of superstitious legends.
Okay.
But I think that Rougarous might just be, one bread short of a baguette basket,
Oh my God. Wonderful analogy, but also incredibly horrible. Well, at least they are trying, I guess. But that's good to know, though, because it's like any creature, there has to be some sort of self-defense mechanism, because we're telling this story to our kids, and it's like saying there's no cure to the monster under your bed. It's like, you wake up as a dad in the middle of the night, your kid's crying and saying, "Hey, I think there's a monster in the closet, under the bed, in the empty whiskey glass you keep leaving in my room."
This is getting sad.
Yeah, it is getting really sad. Fortunately, I do not have kids quite yet, but I'm just coming up. I'm assuming, but like, you don't want to. I'm betting you don't want to go in and say like, "Yeah, it's gonna get you tonight. Just get over it." Like, or everyone says like, monsters aren't real, but like, you want to say like, I know I've heard of some people like filling a bottle of water that's like monster repellent. But at the same time, one could say you don't want to create too much of a crutch, You don't want to say there's like a sort of like, go-to that you have to do every single time to keep this monster at bay. But you want to give an out without completely traumatizing your child to the point when they can't make any more friends because they don't sleep anymore.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of these legends are for. A lot of these legends are just what you were talking about, is just to keep people in line.
Yeah.
And it's also to blame things on other people that you don't want to take responsibility for.
Yeah.
Or that things you don't understand, like how it all started in France. And you know what? I did try to find modern day stories about the Rougarou, modern day personal stories, like, from people on the internet, users on Reddit. I specifically checked Reddit, and now here's the thing about that. There's none on there. And do you know what I did find, though?
What?
A bunch of nerds talking about roller coasters. There is a roller coaster, apparently. Now, I did not have this knowledge previous to like reading this. Okay, there's a roller coaster at an amusement park called Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. Okay, it is a Rougarou themed. Okay, I don't know if it's themed, but it's called the Rougarou.
Okay.
And everybody on Reddit, anything related to Rougarou, I dare all of you to search for Rougarou on Reddit, is about this goddamn roller coaster. So I couldn't find any modern day stories. And the thing is, it's a very niche cryptid. It's very centralized in Louisiana, so it's hard to find anything than old tales.
And this is a perfect segue to my favorite segment of the show. This is why this is bullshit. This is okay. So as we know, my number one rule and my number one point is it's made up. It's fake. It's a story. It never happened. And this one tries even more true to this point of, this is obviously a fake story that parents made up to scare their kids into doing what they want to do. But if we're gonna, like any good cynic, we need to play devil's advocate, and we need to say, okay, well, suppose this thing is real. There have been cases of giant, wolf-like creatures all across the board. That's why we have the chupacabra. That's why we have all these, different, monsters that fit into that category. But, witch trials, man, it's just an obvious. This one's actually kind of a low-hanging fruit. It's kind of an easy target. This one's.
We literally just went over the history of the legend, so I'm going to have to say it's probably not real because we just talked about why people used it as a scapegoat in France,
Right.
But it is a very interesting tale because it's not often that you get to hear about, some kind of specific werewolf. Because everybody knows about werewolves. There are only a couple, at least off the top of my head, that I can mention that are,
Right.
centralized to a specific location. So, this is a localized one.
Yeah.
There's also the Beast of Bray Road, which
Right.
is one that I want to actually cover. There's been a lot. Okay, that one's going to be a little bit different because there's a lot of sightings on that one.
Right.
And that one is going to be really in depth. Mm-hmm. But it's just a fun topic, though. It's interesting to see how this shapes cultures.
Yeah, and actually, realistically, I'm thinking about this now, but maybe calling this as bullshit, even though it obviously is, might be good because, like me, there's a lot of fraidy cats out there that may actually get very terrified by this. And I'm here to say, as your fellow skeptic and scaredy cat, to kind of put a little ethos onto this or whatever, like, dude, I watched Paranormal Activity when I was in high school, and I couldn't sleep for a week. Somebody told me the plot of a movie called Burnt Offering, and I couldn't sleep for a month when I was a kid. I don't respond well to this kind of stuff, so we're telling you, the Rougarou, or at least I'm telling you, probably not real. Probably not going to get you if you're a 10-year-old kid, or no, actually, if you're like a 5-year-old kid. I don't know why you're listening to our podcast at 5 years old, but good for you. You're going to be fine.
You know it says explicit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we are not good influences to the youth.
Yes. So if you are 5 years old listening to this, I apologize that you had to hear some of the things that we said.
But you're going to be better for it. And if not, more protected, just more savvy of the culture of the world. Because if you can walk away with this learning a little bit of something about, why we're afraid of literally everything as a species, I think we did our job.
Yeah, and also we did give you specific rules on how to protect yourself from a Rougarou.
Right.
With a dramatization in it. So follow that and you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, I think that's about all there is to talk about. This is a very, like you said, it's a very niche cryptid. There's not a whole lot of information about it because we do live in sort of a more modern time where folklore like this is pretty much debunked just by having a camera outside your house.
Yes, very true.
Mm-hmm. Sad times, man. I think, dude, it'd just be so much easier to be a parent back in those days.
It would be a lot easier. I mean,
outside of the starvation.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. But, well, at least hopefully you're not starving wherever you are listening to this. So yeah. Anyways, that being said, hope y'all are doing okay. Hope the holidays didn't depress you too much. But hey, we got a big year coming up in 2020, and that's just because it's an even number year. We're all about superstitious. I love even number years, probably because when I was a kid, it was just easier to multiply them. But I want to believe that there's some good fortune that'll happen. So hopefully something good happens to you, something good happens to us. And and
we have a really good episode for you guys next week. We're going back to aliens.
Yes.
It's going to be the Allagash abductions. So hopefully you guys get hyped up for that.
Yep, and we are going to continue down this pathway into global culture phenomena. And hopefully you will be on with us for the ride, or you could be our fourth fan. This could be you, and we welcome it, and we are excited for you. So stay tuned.
Yep, that's it. That's been us.
Yep. Catch you next time.